Let me indeed introduce my guest. His name is Pastor. Do you say Pastor Mr. T?
That name has refused to go. The name Mr. T.
It has,
Yes,
hasn't it?
but it's a good
Karibu
name.
sana to
Wow,
the
thank you
show.
very much.
You're like an all-round person. You do all sorts of things.
Yes.
Tell us a few of the things you do.
I'm a pastor. I pastor a church called Life Church International Limuru. I'm a mentor, running a mentorship program called the Truth Mentorship Society.
Yeah.
And also an author. One thing you don't know is that I've written a book called The Value of a Woman's Worth.
Wow.
And the second publication is called Understanding Pain. I tried to use theology to address real-time issues.
Okay.
Practical, what we call application theology. And what else? I'm a husband to one beautiful wife.
Yeah.
Waheto Kabi Kahura.
Yes.
And yeah, also part of me works in the media, was still doing music,
Yeah.
though not very actively.
And you were like a hip hopper. Like you weren't
Yes,
just doing
yes,
music.
yes.
You were doing like hip hop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I shifted from the brand hip hop to apostolic rap.
Come on.
When I did my research on the whole culture of hip hop,
Yeah.
so I felt I cannot exalt the culture. I have to
Wow.
exalt Jesus above the culture.
The thing I like about you is that you're a very deep guy, but you're still very in touch with society and
Yeah.
culture and what is happening today. And I think that's what really makes you very relatable to a lot of young people.
Yes.
And as we dive into this man cave discussion, I find it very interesting that you've written this book on the worth of a woman, you said?
The value of a woman's worth.
The value of a woman's worth.
Yes. It
Talk
looks,
to me about that, because I think it would still relate to,
yeah,
to
it
our
looks like
topic
two
today.
conflicting words. You see, value is what people give externally. Worth is what you are internally. So, just looking at the woman who came and broke the alabaster jar before Jesus, what she was asking for is restoration of her worth, because the jar and the alabaster oil gave her some faulty value. And so you find in life, it takes Jesus to pull for the worth in a person, but it is easy for men to give you value because of what you've gone through or the kind of challenges you've gone through. So it's just looking at the society, the position of women, and just trying to say, you know what, there is worth in you. Don't allow men to give you value, possibly because of your background, your
Yeah.
mistakes, and your chaos.
Yeah.
So identify from a place of worth.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. Well, I want us to jump straight into our topic then today, talking about God-fearing men.
Yes.
Which, if we're to, let's just be real, yeah?
Yes.
A lot of ladies feel like those two are like there's this conflict, like there's a huge this wall, between those two, God-fearing and then men today.
Yes.
Is that true in your case?
Let me first of all begin by putting it into four different types of men. One, you'll find just a man by birth, a man by anatomy, a man by gender, a man who grew but was not raised to become a man. There's a difference. When you are raised, there are values that are imparted into you. And so you have the attitude, the perceptions of a man. And we have many, I call them natural men, who just grew and found themselves in a gender circle, anatomically defined as men, but they don't understand what to be a man is.
Wow.
And we have such because of, society fragmentation. And then we have God-fearing men. And for me, God-fearing men is the least in the radar. These are people that have a consciousness of the existence of God. They have reverence of God, but they may not really have a relationship with God. They don't have a problem going to church. They don't have a problem, getting a person who prays and all that. They don't have a problem with what we may call the religious, activities, but they are not so much into them. So they're just there. They have this
Their
consciousness.
life isn't sold out.
Yes, God is there, and it's good to know God, but it's just on a general cover.
Okay.
I always say they exist just in case. And then we have men of God. Now, men of God, these are different men. It is men that God has called and wants to partner with them.
Yeah.
This is why we have the ministry, the fivefold, the ministry kind dimension. And these men are also different. Their dealings, their their preparation, their lifestyle is totally different. And I stand as a man of God because I know, like for me, it's very hard to take my wife out on Saturday. Those are my days of labor. Monday is our day when everyone is complaining. So Monday is the day when we go out. So when you begin to deal with men of God, these are men. They are 100% men with weaknesses, with flaws in life, but God calls them, anoints them, and begins a journey with them to execute a few mandates on earth.
Okay.
But now we also have men in God. Now, generally, when we talk about God-fearing men, the assumption is
that they're
men
men
in God. Now, men in God are people that have a personal relationship with God. They understand the disciplines of fellowship. And out of that, they begin to rub the principles of expression and the principles of who a man should be. Maybe just to take you a little bit back, biblically now speaking, you'll discover that in Genesis 1:26, 1:27, especially when we come to 1:27, it looks like a contradictory scripture. It says, and God created man, male and female created he, him created he, them. That does not sound grammatically correct because God created one man, singular, then male and female, plural, then him, singular, he, singular, that is God, them, plural. And when God was creating these entities, he said, let's make man in our own image and likeness. And in biblical language, or what I may call kingdom language, when we talk about man, we are not talking about gender. When we talk about man in the Bible, the original Hebrew rendering there, it was let us make mankind, a kind of us that is man. So this kind of us that is man existed as a male expression and a female expression. This one will begin to open a few things. Now, the male-female dimension, whereby you see these two entities coexisting, this is where I'll encourage someone to forget biology and begin to understand the language of the Bible. Biologically speaking, female means a woman. And, when we talk about biology, male means a man. But God does not have gender. God is neither male nor female.
Right.
What God was creating was entities of expression.
Okay.
That when you see a man, you can see a dimension of God in that man.
Right.
And that's where now we begin to define man from God.
Yeah.
Yes.
So because this segment is specifically targeted then to the men, I want us to focus on the male gender in God.
Yes.
And talk about how that affects or should affect every other area of his life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Today is Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Kuna pressure mob. In fact, there's something I read interesting, very interesting yesterday.
Yeah.
This is actually by a lady. And said, I find it very abusive to put pressure on men to provide us with a life we cannot afford for ourselves as women. As much as women are not rehabilitation centers for badly raised men, men are not poverty eradication plans for lazy women. And I just thought that was such a great word there by a lady.
Yeah, powerful.
But certainly today is a lot of pressure for men across board, whichever of the four places they fit in. There seems to be this tremendous pressure with Valentine's Day. Tunasikia kuna men's conference, kuna nini, right?
Yeah.
How does a man today navigate the pressures of society to provide, to look a certain way, to have all sorts of money, to be swagged out, to be driving the latest car? Where does he fit into all of this that you're saying about how men are raised, who defines them, what they value or see their worth as? How does a man make it today?
You see, cultures are created, and cultures are a product of the society. It's a society that creates a culture. When people come together, they come with their norms. And I believe what we are seeing today is a society norm, and it has a background because when women were empowered, and this is a very sensitive conversation. When women were empowered, they were empowered in the wrong way. They were empowered to compete with men, but not to complete men. So now we have women who have taken the roles of men, and so we have men who cannot take the roles of women. And so now there's this conflicting space of a very empowered woman who can do what a man can do, but at the end of the day, there is this man, and the woman expects the man to do what he's supposed to do, though the woman is empowered to do what a man can do. So they came became a conflict of empowerment, and this is just a society kind of setting. And that's why anytime socialism begins to rise, we must go and consult what was the kingdom agenda, what was this order that God was trying to bring on board.
Right.
The conflict today is a conflict of what we call responsibility versus what we call roles. This one has to be gotten
Right.
very well.
Right.
Because of society metamorphism and transitions, we found that slowly whatever was set as the roles of men, that is provide, protect, preserve and all that. We live in gated communities, so you don't even need to protect anyone. You have a watchman there. We provision, we are all working, we are all educated, we can all bring something on the table. But what we need to go back is come to the place of roles. Responsibilities can be shared. And when God created man, even in the context of relationship, he never created competitors, he created people for completion. Okay. So the moment you come into relationship, you come to complete. And it is society that set responsibilities. It is not the Bible. The only responsibility set by the Bible is consistent with the role. Like one of the roles of a man is to love his wife. That's a role. The other role of a man is to be a priest. That one you cannot delegate. No matter how learned your wife is, or your spouse, or the person you're dating, you can never give her the mandate of becoming a priest, or give her the mandate of loving you. So until we begin to come back to the original blueprint, then this socialism and all these things will begin to create unnecessary pressure, and we cannot handle it because we were not designed to do something beyond our mechanism. Wow. There is an anatomy, there is an emotional infrastructure that a man carries and a woman carries. And so anytime there are demands that are beyond your infrastructure, the best thing you can do is either retreat, collapse, or vent. And that's exactly what we are seeing. Right. The reaction, people are venting. People are saying, you know what, we are not a poverty eradication system. And we also have to come to the place of asking, who's feeding these ideologies to the women? Because it is in African context, majority, where we see men being elevated as poverty eradication policy. And it's because we're in a third world country. Economically, we are struggling. And so people have seen marriage as a way out of their poverty, but they've not understood the context of marriage and relationship and the positions. And so when you go with the wrong attitude, automatically this thing will collapse.
Yeah.
So there's pressure, it's society set, but I believe we have to come back to define the roles of men, the roles of women, and the moment that is well defined, then a woman will know that what they need is beyond material things. The reality we need to come to today, even if you get married to a guy with a 6-bedroom house and he has this 4x4 machine, after 3 months you'll get used to that thing and you'll discover you needed a man, not things. And there are people who are languishing in solitude because they got married or they got engaged to things,
right,
not the person.
Yeah.
And now they're realizing, I needed a man, I needed a husband, I didn't need these things, because these things can never fill the void that is in a woman or is in a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.